T minus 60 seconds. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Good evening and welcome everyone to the 5 Foot Viking podcast. I am your host, Marlene Petrell, and this is the podcast where you get to drink a beer and learn something new. Tonight's a little bit unique because normally we have one guest, one topic, and today I am joined by my beautiful wife, Marlene Petrell. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. And we're joined. This is going to be fun because this is my 10th podcast, and you have watched. Marlene has a unique perspective because she's seen every podcast that I've done because you've been here or you've been tuning in if it's been an off location, and you've kind of. It's been fun to talk with you about this.
Can we lower this a little bit on my end?
Oh, do you need to hear some more?
No, less.
Oh, you want less?
It's yeah.
You want less?
You
are
loud.
Well, yeah.
Nature,
I have a mega
perfect.
throat. There we go.
There.
Okay.
Thank you. I want to go deaf.
Marlene has a unique perspective, and it's been fun because she is my wife, and the fact that I can get done with the podcast and listen, and we can talk, and I can bounce ideas off of her, and she can tell me what she thinks, and because every week I'm trying to do something bigger and better. So this podcast is the recap. We are going to go back and we're going to look at all of the previous 9 podcasts. And we're going to take just a small clip out of each one and just kind of look at it, talk about it, see. And if any of you guys are watching at home, I'd love to know what your guys' thoughts are, what your favorite podcast was. And to be honest, I'd love to hear what you think, what direction you think the 5 Foot Viking should go. So with that being said, we are going to jump right into first our once again my favorite section of the podcast, and this is where we get to drink some beer. So this tonight's podcast, we are drinking. It is called Una Más Por Favor by La Quinta Brewing Company, and it's 5.1%. And the reason why we got this beer is because it was Marlene's birthday just a few days ago, and I wish I had like a happy birthday song, queued up for you. But
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, my beautiful wife, we celebrated her birthday this past weekend, and happy birthday, sweetheart.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out. Cheers.
Cheers.
Skål.
Skål.
This is Una Más.
Oh, that's
From a different brewing that I know. Earlier we tried some Una Más from Left Coast Brewing. Mm-hmm. This is called Una Más Por Favor by La Quinta Brewing Company.
And this is from Palm Springs.
La Quinta. I think
The brewery is called La Quinta.
Yeah, but I think the city is called La Quinta too.
I thought that we were in Palm Springs yesterday. I mean,
we might have
Palm
been.
Desert.
Palm Desert.
Yeah.
We went all over the place.
Palm
that was
Desert,
fun.
California. Yeah.
Mexican lager for my Mexican wife. We've got a few comments right here. Mr. Edgar Hernandez, love you. Thank you always for tuning in. Appreciate you. Stephanie, great to see you on here again. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Oh, Brenda Wooten. How are you? Miss you. Love you. Can't wait to hang out. Just a little inside note to everybody. World According to Woot is going to be a guest on the 5 Foot Viking
Oh,
podcast.
cool.
Yes, Jim and Brenda. That is going to be fun. I like this. Chug or sip.
I used to be a chugger. Now I'm a sipper.
Yeah, I think I'm going to sip this one because if I start chugging with it, it's just going to get ugly. That's not a pretty sight. I don't think anybody wants to see that.
That was back in my firehouse girl days that we used to chug beers before.
Yeah, that was that was a good one.
My
Shivani.
alcoholic life.
No, that was a good time.
I was young. Dumb.
All right, we got a lot of people checking in. Good to see everybody on here. So, the first thing that we were going to talk about is the very first podcast that we did, which is we did a test podcast, which was in December, and that was with me and you. We talked about our trip to Europe.
Sorry.
Which was it was cool, it was fun, but that podcast was more about me learning the platform and figuring this out. But the very first 5 Foot Viking podcast that we did was it was entitled Passion, Profession, and Purpose. And this one was an interesting one because it was the first podcast that I did, and it was all by myself. I was extremely nervous, and I mean, I don't know if that came off. Did you feel the tension in the air when?
Not tension, but I could feel like you were very stressed out, and you're a perfectionist, and I get it. I'm a perfectionist, but I just kind of like,
You're a perfectionist to a moment, and then you're like.
But you're like, oh no, but I don't have this right, and what about this? And like the little details, like the mugs, which. It's awesome that you put so much, care into it, but little things that to me would be like, but you did awesome though.
We'll find out. We've got a small clip here from the 5 Foot Viking podcast number 1. So let's take a look at this. The other night I watched the movie Soul with my wife. And it's a cartoon. If you've seen it, I'm sure you've cried. But if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's really, really good. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but they were talking about it's a musician, and he was playing, and he was playing with a sax player, and he kind of gets in the zone, and he's like, most musicians, we all know when you get into the zone, you're feeling it, you're in it, it's a feeling more than audio. It's something that you were someplace where you go, and they did a good job of portraying that in the movie. And while we were at that part, my wife paused it, and she looks at me and she goes, "Is that real? Like, does that really happen?" And it was so crazy to me, thinking, because I stopped and thought about it. I'm like, yeah, it is like that. But if you would have asked me that question 15, 20 years ago, I would have said, yes, absolutely, 100%, yes. But because this has become my profession, there are sometimes you have to find that balance between having the passion for it, but also realizing that I need to, I'm paying bills with this. I need to get more gigs. I need to do it. So there's been, this last couple months has been really difficult to find the passion in it when we're struggling. We used to work 6 nights a week, and now we're working maybe 3 times a month. There's a lot going on up in there. But it was interesting to go and watch that whole movie, and kind of see how it made me feel about my own purpose and my own passion. And I haven't gotten emotional over a movie, especially a cartoon, since Up. And Up was really just emotional at that little 2 minutes at the very beginning. That was oh man, that hurt. But there's a great story in this when it talks with your purpose and with your, being a full-time musician, being a full-time band leader. He wasn't. Oh, I don't want to give it away, but he gets his shot, and the feelings that he has in there, I can completely relate to it. And it was just, I really encourage you to watch it. You can translate that to pretty much any aspect of your life. It doesn't have to be with a musician. It just so happens that it was with a musician. That's what really spoke to me. Yeah. So that was the first one, and I realized literally just right now from watching that I needed to work on my talking with the camera, my even right now, like my formulating my sentences and staying present to the conversation.
Yeah.
But it was my first one. I was super nervous, and I remember going into that and just trying to figure out what I was going to talk about, and
Yeah.
I was hoping that people would interact with me on that, yeah, that was a tough one.
You could tell that you were nervous, but at the same time, why?
I don't know.
You talk to the wall if you could, because it doesn't answer back. I'm just kidding. But you talk to the wall, literally, like you'll talk to anybody and everybody, and But I get it. You had so much in your mind.
And it was such a different.
Mhm.
It's different for me being on the camera, doing this and trying to interact, and
you
work
were
on this.
learning too.
And I'm
Yes.
definitely, it was a learning curve. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Jim, I love you. And yes, I definitely have to put that Rickenbacker in the back of it. It's just a beautiful bass. So, are you guys casting on a TV? We are actually, we have a TV right here in front of us. So that's the hardest part, is that we have a TV that we're looking at everything, and we have the webcam up top, and we've got a couple lights, and we've got our computer.
I feel like if I look up at the camera, though, I have the reflection of the light.
That's
so
true.
That's why I'm trying not to.
It's a work in progress. It really is. We're trying to figure out how to use good lighting, how to use good microphones, how to use, I definitely need to bump up our Wi-Fi to make sure that everything works. The Wi-Fi needs to be much better. That's for sure. And the brewskis are definitely, they help. They definitely help. But there is that particular podcast was more, I was definitely questioning, getting into something new like this, because I'm a musician. So being a musician and being on stage, it's all I've known. It's all I've done. It's what I'm used to. So getting to this, I was definitely very, very nervous. And
what do I do with my hands?
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with my hands. And and like my dad says, super nervous. Fine, you were and are honest in who you are. Mm-hmm. That's what comes through. I appreciate you, Dad. So let's move on to number 2. So number 2, the very second podcast. Now this one was a lot of fun because it was my first time having a guest on it. The first one was more me trying to get through my thoughts and become a little bit more comfortable with podcasting. This one was fun because it was a remote. So my guest was Kathy Groover. We met in Cuba. And she is awesome, and she just has so much knowledge. So here's a quick, and just so you guys know, each clip is about like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. I've tried to find something that was unique in that podcast, and to show you guys. So here's just a small clip of the 5 Foot Viking podcast number 2. You had mentioned, like, sometimes people just throw out goals, just because they might be like an umbrella of a goal, but becoming more specific, and that really challenges you to figure out, is this what you want? What do you actually want out of this? What will this bring to your life? And what would be one of your tips to how do we dive deeper on this?
I love asking why. There's something called the 5 whys, and I'll give you a real life example of this. So I finished doing a talk. It was a psychology conference. I was talking about affirmations, and a woman came up to me afterwards and said, "What if they're affirming something that can never happen?" And I went, "Oh, okay, interesting. Give me an example." She said, "I have a patient who affirms all day long that he wins the lottery." And I said, oh, okay, let me guess. He's never bought a ticket. She said, no, he has never bought a ticket and he's incarcerated. And I went, oh, interesting. Okay. Well, let me ask you this. I said, why does he want to win the lottery? And she said, what? And I said, why does he want to win the lottery? And she said, oh, well, he wants to start a foundation. I said, okay, why does he want to start a foundation? Well, he was incarcerated at a young age and he wants to help other Black youth so that they don't get incarcerated. I said, okay, well, then he doesn't want to win the lottery.
Yeah.
She said, no, yes, he does. And I said, no. He wants to help youth.
That's awesome.
He does not want to win the lottery. He feels like the only way he can do that is to win the lottery. That's not what he actually wants. Same thing with what are you really afraid of? That's another great question. I'm afraid of motivational speaking. Really? What are you really afraid of? What if they laugh at me? What if they laugh at you? What if I die? Okay, that's what you're really afraid of.
Yeah.
Distilling that down. The most famous example of that, and I absolutely love this, is the Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C. They found that it was just completely falling apart. It was degrading. The marble was coming down, the concrete, everything. So they brought in an engineer to fix the memorial. And the guy had the sense to say, well, wait a minute, why is this memorial degrading faster than any other memorial here in Washington, D.C.? Comes to find out they were power washing it more than any of the others. So the guy had the sense to say, okay, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why are they power washing this one more than any of the others? Well, it's all the bird poop. Mm-hmm. So they put up bird netting. It looks terrible. The birds are still pooping. So then the guy looks a little further and he says, well, why is there all this bird poop? Well, there's these really yummy bugs. Okay, well, why are there really yummy bugs? Well, there's these spiders. Okay, why are there spiders? They kept the lights on overnight. They turned off the lights. The spiders went away, the bugs went away, the birds went away, there was no more shit, and they didn't have to do anything to the memorial. It's source analysis. It's like getting down to that root. It's root cause analysis. We need to do that for
deep, yeah.
We need to do that for ourselves. Keep asking why. Why do you want to weigh 145 pounds? Why do you want to make $1 million? Why do you want to skydive over Botswana? I don't know if that's a thing. With stuff like that, it's pretty clear, but like, why do you want to do that thing? And that helps you break it down. Why do you want to write a book? Do you think you're going to be famous? Do you want to make a lot of money? Do you want to share your story? Do you want to give it away for Christmas gifts? Why do you want to do these things? And I don't think we ask that enough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was a great podcast. She just drops amazing. A lot of knowledge. And I love that particular clip, especially because my little sister Shivani texted me afterwards and she was like, she's so excited because she was like, no more shit. And then like that, I thought that was hilarious, especially that story about the Jefferson Memorial and it was such a great example of digging deep into your why, digging deep into the reason, So, and speaking of my sister, Shivani, you're a freaking perfectionist. Each time you ease into it, stop being so picky, you little bitch. Love you. I absolutely love my little sister. That's funny. And my little sister, actually, her daughter, Elena, has a birthday today.
Happy birthday,
Elena. She is 10 years young.
Yo.
So that's pretty awesome. Happy birthday.
Time flies, doesn't it?
And yes, definitely love the 5 Whys. And my good friend Billy, brother.
Billy.
Yeah, it's a great clip. That was a great podcast. And just so all of you guys know as well, in the description, I'm not sure if it worked. It's my first time trying it, but I left links to all the original podcasts. So if you see a clip on here that you like and you want to go back and watch the whole thing, the link should be in the description above or below. Well, I don't know where it is. It's my first time.
Above or below or next to it.
I remember asking you, why do you want to start a podcast, bro? Yes, Edgar Hernandez, he literally in the world of podcasting for me, my mentor, literally the gentleman who has taught me just about everything that has to do with the technicality of everything that happens here. And yeah, it was interesting when you did ask me that. I remember because during the pandemic and during the shutdowns, we had a lot of time on our hands, and we connected a lot more, and we started talking a lot more. And I remember watching your podcast a lot, and because it was fun times. It was like we didn't have anything, and you talk about some really fun stuff. Like some of it is weird, and some of it is interesting, and some of it is thought provoking. So I remember watching a lot of it, and I was like, man, like you definitely lit a fire for me to do something like this. So yeah. So and that coming out of that podcast, I felt like I was like 100%. I felt so good coming out. I remember walking out of the bedroom, and you guys were in here, and I came out, and I remember
and you came like this.
I came out like a superhero, like a 5-foot Viking superhero. It was a great podcast, great conversation, and I felt really victorious. If that's, I don't know, it felt really good. I like that one. That was a fun one.
It was good vibes.
You know what? I want to ask you, Marlene, from watching that one, I know you were excited to see Kathy and learn from her. Was there anything in particular that you were like that struck you that?
Well, one that was that I still remember, like as soon as you asked that question, like it came to my head. The part where she said, "Okay, look around the room and spot something red. See what
look at everything that's red."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't speak English clearly. And so I was like, okay, cool. And then she said, "All right, now." What was blue?
Yeah, she said, memorize everything that's red.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, she said, now close your eyes. Now tell me what was blue.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it was basically we think about what
like,
we see.
What are you focusing on?
What you focus on.
There's so many things that you focus on, but how about like what you want? Like you're forgetting. And that's what I took away from it. Like, it's like, you're forgetting that you want this because you're focusing on everything around it. So that's how I took it. And
that was in the same podcast.
Yeah, as soon as she said that, I was like, "Oh, you are genius."
Yeah, that was a good one. Oh no, we've got a couple. Is he saying this in the Morgan? So I have to reread it in the Morgan. No, I'm not going to do that. All right. So the 5-Foot Viking podcast number 3, which I thought was a great lead-in because we both met Kathy Groover in Cuba. And a few days after that, a lot of people were asking me, they said, when did you go to Cuba? How did you go to Cuba? A lot of people were interested in that. So the next podcast that we did was, what was Cuba like? And that was with Marlene was my guest that day because she's the one.
Didn't have a guest.
Well, no, because you are the one who planned the whole damn trip. I didn't know anything about it. You were the one who really dove into what kind of money do we need? How do we get the flights?
Well, I really wanted to go.
Airbnb, yeah.
See, this ties up perfectly. When you really want to do something, even if the other person doesn't, you kind of just go for it, and you keep digging and finding out, learning.
So here is a clip from the 5-Foot Viking podcast number 3. What was Cuba like? When we got down there, or before we went down there, you took a lot of good advice because Cuba has been closed to America for so long. Their banking system doesn't work with ours. Like our credit cards don't work with theirs. Our bank cards, nothing. So they told us, like, we literally had whatever cash you bring, that's all you got. There's no ATM you can go to and take money out.
And you can only exchange it there. You can exchange it here in the States.
Yeah. What was the currency they have?
Cook. Yes.
CUC. Yeah.
And there's 2, if I'm not mistaken, but we went for the Cook because that's what the locals use. And yes, on that vlog, she spoke about how, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe I clicked a link that said that if you exchange the dollars to euros, it's better for them and you get a better rate. Whether that was true or not, whatever. I just wanted something that would be easy to exchange, which actually was lucky for us because this was one of the things, like, as soon as we got there, like I said, the airport is very small. And after getting stopped and trying to gather our things and just get out of the airport, and them telling us, like, okay, keep going, I didn't exchange any money.
Ah, that's right.
And it was a Sunday. And
And we
banks
got-
are not open on Sundays. And we arrived, and it was about what, 3, 4?
It was afternoon?
It was still early.
But it wasn't early enough to exchange anything.
Nothing was open
No.
regardless, even if we would have been there in the morning. So when we arrived to our Airbnb, and here we go, one more time, why I rather do Airbnb is because the gentleman that took care of the building, excuse me, this is pretty, excuse me.
Fernando.
Fernando, yes, he was amazing. And, one of the awesome things about me being able to speak Spanish. Oh, no, it
What's
already hit
awesome
me.
about me
Hello.
speak Spanish?
No, what's awesome about that is that I was able to communicate with him and just let him know, like, crap, man, is there a place that we can exchange money so we can eat? Like, we have nothing. We can't go anywhere and buy.
Yeah, we had
anything.
We had dollars, but
No, we had the euros.
Oh, that's right. We had the euros, but we couldn't
exchange it. So he was like, you know what? Let me make a call. And he called this gentleman that lived in the same building, and he came into the Airbnb. He was like, yeah, I have some, what do you need? And I felt like a drug dealer.
It was the weirdest experience.
But you know what? We got our money. We didn't give a crap. No. We were like, okay, let's go grab something to eat. It's like, you can breathe. But it was just horrible because we were like, and then the lines were long to go to the bank. Remember, we were catty corner from the bank.
Yeah, we were actually right next to.
Yeah, the bank line ended at our Airbnb. That's right. It was insane.
But we ended up exchanging some of it through the gentleman that came to the room, and then I think we kept some.
And we exchanged it again with him. He came a second time.
We didn't go to the hotel.
Never went to the hotel. No,
we went to this like super fancy hotel.
The Hotel Nacional.
Nacional. That and that was a really cool.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it was like.
That's where we went into the excavations, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, we're jumping way ahead.
We're bouncing. This is a very laid back podcast. We're just having some fun, telling some good stories. Yeah. That was to be honest, that was my favorite podcast.
It's so awkward it's like when you listen to yourself on a voicemail, okay, maybe this is just me, but whenever I hear my voice, it's like, what? Stop it. It's like nails on a chalkboard.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. But
because I love your Spanish accent, especially when you say Madonna's chicken nugget.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it's great, especially when you drink, because when you drink, your accent gets thicker.
I know I have an accent. I just can't hear it. Does it make sense?
No, because I
know that I have a thick accent, but I just can't. I don't know. But then I see.
Did you hear it right now?
Yeah. I was like, what did she say?
You couldn't even understand yourself?
Most of the time I don't.
So, well, I mean, that was my favorite one. That was my favorite podcast because it was fun. First of all, it was just fun to relive that.
Mm-hmm.
But Thank you know what's interesting is hearing it back. I can hear like the there was like popping going on there was like some popping going on in the vocals or in the microphones. Mm-hmm. And it's funny to see how I've just learned over the course of, because I remember after going back and listening to that and then hearing the popping, I reached out to my buddy Edgar and I'm like, bro, what is going on?
Hearing
like,
the popping.
The hearing the popping. I'm like, bro, I got these brand new mics and they're really good microphones. Like, why is it happening like that? Yeah. And, hearing the, and then, we got to sit down and troubleshoot it and realized it had something to do with the bit rate, which I didn't even know what bit rate was, but it's just interesting to know that all came from.
You learn something new
every time. Oscar Macias.
Hi, Oscar.
Hi, Oscar. Podcast was my favorite.
The podcast that you did at Cities, it sounded so clear. It was.
Well, that was definitely, that had a lot
and
to
the
do
background, of course.
It looked great.
Yeah.
The being there. Being there at Cities was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then
that's a gorgeous place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then also when I have Edgar there to produce it, that makes a big difference in the sound as well. Yeah. Dad, Marlene, you don't have an accent. Whit does. Yes.
If I had penny, just a penny.
My
for
mom says
every time they ask where my accent is from.
cheeseburger.
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 Like Madonna's.
Madonna's.
Madonna's. Yeah, yeah.
That's good times. Yeah, that was a fun one because just reliving it,
Mhm.
talking about it, and then learning something about it afterwards. Learning more about the podcasting. The technicality of it
Right.
was good. So the next one, now this next podcast, the podcast number 4, this was Let's Talk Real Estate. That was with Javier Guerrero.
That was so good.
This was a fun one because
Yeah.
we had Javi was here, and that's the first time that
Mhm.
did Edgar come down on that one? And
No,
that was just
Mm-mm.
me and him, right?
Mhm.
So that's right. So it was just me and Javi,
Mhm.
and we were talking about real estate. And I remember me and him, but when we started setting up this podcast, we were
Yeah.
like, man, what should we talk about?
Mhm.
Because there's so many aspects.
And I remember Javi was so nervous, and
Yeah.
yet he did so well.
He did so good.
Yeah,
He did so
really
good.
did.
But because we were trying to find topics to talk about, and
Mhm.
originally I kind of wanted to do like a change my mind type
Yeah.
thing. Like, a lot of people are leaving California. You're a professional real estate agent. Convince me to stay. Like, I
Yeah.
wanted to do one of those. But then I was kind of like, there's just so many aspects of real estate, especially in Southern
Mhm.
California, that we should talk about. So anyways, so here is a quick section of the 5 Foot Viking podcast number 4 with Javier Guerrero.
Well, I was talking about that with my coach today.
I love that you have a coach. I love that.
Me too. She's actually happy that I'm doing this.
That's so cool.
She's
Is she watching? She better be watching.
She might be. But we were talking about what 2020 brought, and you and I were talking about that.
Yes.
If you didn't learn anything during the time that you were cooped up in your house and didn't take advantage of the time that we had in either reading, listening, and doing anything, or making yourself better, just even in our own profession, I feel like I'm the steel rod of real estate agents, because I know that you guys practice and practice and practice, and that's what I do, and I do that. The agents that don't practice that and sharpen their knives, their skills, and sharpen the blade and do that, yes, they're gone. And so the ones that are left are the ones that know how to sell, the ones that know what they're doing, and the ones that are going to be more informative to the consumer. And that's what I feel. I'd rather have that, because if I'm representing a buyer or I'm representing a seller, I want that other agent that writes that offer to know what's going on, to know what they're doing. And me personally, if I get a vibe that agent doesn't know what they're doing, then I help them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's a good offer that comes in, I don't think that my client should suffer just because that real estate agent doesn't know what he's doing.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it. And if I can help them and make them a better agent, then the next
better
time,
for the industry.
Right. I mean, you're going to have more integrity. They're going to be better. And then the next time I have a deal, or that guy might have a listing that my buyer wants, and he's going to remember what I did for him, and he's going to accept my offer over another offer. Mm-hmm. Because we never know who we're going to run into in this business.
Yeah.
We don't, And that's when you see the numbers of real estate agents, dropping off. We need that every once in a while.
Yeah.
When the market is where you could put a sign up and it sells. Do you really have to be?
That's exactly why I got mine. Like, I mean,
you could be a musician / realtor.
I'm gonna be real with you, dude. Like,
realtor.
I was a musician, and and the market was really good. Everybody homes were. It was if I'm not mistaken, it was a seller's market, because anyone could come in and they would have 5 more offers, on the table, but more than what it appraised for. And this is back in 2004, and so I jumped. I'm like, hey, this seems like a good idea. I'm working at night. Might as well get my real estate license and do something during the day. So I went out. I got my license. I learned about it. I ended up getting a job at Century 21 Masters in
Right.
Walnut. with Neil Schwartz, and I'll never forget because that gentleman is he's a cool. You've worked with him as well.
I was there too.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Man, I just learned so much from him when in my short time in the business. But I think that was probably my first turning point when it came to like personal growth, because they turned me on to like the Tony Robbins. Back then there were cassettes, or I think I had CDs. I actually had CDs, so that was good. But that was kind of my first, introduction to personal growth and learn time management, things like that. Because I'm a rock star, dude. Like I don't wake up at 7 unless I'm surfing. Like
That's not gonna happen.
So, but yeah. So when I was one of those real estate agents who got my license, jumped in, sold a few homes, did a couple deals, couple referrals, things like that, and after about, I want to say 9 months or so. It was about 9 months that I was really working it. And I was like, this is just not for me. I couldn't hang. I was one of the washouts that
took a listing from you. No, and that's okay. I mean, that's gonna happen. And the numbers that we take on as real estate agents when we set our goals and do that, we take that into consideration. There's always going to be those listings that we don't get. Yeah. But our job is to go in and make it happen. So if during that time you would have had a buyer and you came to me, I would have helped you. Yeah. I would have helped you get through it because I want to educate you and make sure that it all gets done.
That was a good one. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Javi is one of those genuinely nice guys that, he works hard for what he has, but at the same time, he wants to help other people. And we need more of that in the world.
Absolutely.
But he's just a solid guy.
It was pretty fun too. When he came over, he was like, he was super nervous, which it was interesting because I've never seen him like that. He's like, he's always
a natural though.
He's always calm and collected. And he sat down. He was like, all right, man, I want to do good. And it's funny to see how this was that was the 5 Foot Viking podcast number 4. Yeah. Just a month before that, I was him. I was freaked out by myself, trying to figure out how to navigate this thing, hoping that people watch, hoping that somebody fucking cares. And like, I was really nervous about that. So after 4 weeks, I kind of just settled my way into it, like my sister said. And it was fun to kind of talk him off the ledge. Yeah. And just be like, bro, like, hey, you're going to be fine.
You're good at, when I do my best to keep my stress level at bay so that I don't give it to you, because you're the type of person that you have a lot on your plate and you always do. Like, you just put big scoops of everything on your plate. And yeah. And this is why you stress out about things. And so I try my best to take off those scoops off your plate, but sometimes it gets hard. And that's what she said. Sorry.
That's what she said.
I swear, my Michael's cut. It's what is it?
It's your spirit animal.
Yeah,
it's Michael Scott from The Office.
So anyway, but you kind of like, oh, okay, wait, you need some encouragement. I got you. Yeah. You're that person. Like, you kind of see somebody in need and you're like, oh, wait. So it takes it off from you.
It was a really good conversation. It was fun hanging out with him. It was fun talking. I still heard the pops in the back from the microphones.
But you notice everything.
I know, but that's how I get better, is because I notice all that stuff.
But it's like, we go to a concert or we go see a band play and he's like, oh,
I'm the worst one.
This is happening and the engineer is not focusing on this or anything like that.
I'm always like,
I know.
That's better.
and then we go to a restaurant and I used to be a server bartender. So I focus on those little things. He's like, why do you always pay attention to that? Why do you always pay attention to the way somebody plays? Don't worry about it. Yeah.
We got a few more comments. Grace here. Cheers and congrats on your 10 weeks. I love it.
Oh, yay.
It's always scary to do something new and get out of your comfort zone, but you're rocking it. Thank you so much. And thank you for tuning in and the support, literally everybody who's tuning in right now, watching on Facebook or YouTube, or sending comments, or liking it, or sharing it, or it just, all the support really means a lot.
Amen.
Where are we at?
This one here. That's pretty cool. Yes. 100%.
When we help each other, we all rise. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what support is for. And Mr. Oscar, you
did so good, though.
Don't wait.
You did so good.
It's okay. I found a great clip of you messing up, so I'm going to play that one. I'm just kidding. Wow. I'm just kidding. I love you, brother. And it was a lot of fun. So it was funny because that one, I know that we were still having some pops, and I really I took it and I just went with it. And I'm like, I went back to Edgar and I said, bro, I need you to come over and produce one of the things. And it was the weirdest thing. I wish I could show you guys a picture. Maybe I'll post it on Instagram later. But the first time that we did, which is the next podcast that we're going to talk about, which is the 5 Foot Viking podcast number 5. And it was Let's Talk Solar Energy. And this was with my good friend, Matt Munoz, who we go back. We go way back. The three of us, we were the tripod. Back. We were all roommates for a long time while Matt was in the Marines. And he got a job working at a solar company. Then he started his own, and he was doing great. So this next clip, just a precursor to it, I reached out to Edgar and I said, I'm having problems and I need you to come down and produce it. And our living room was set up so funky. We had a table here, cables hanging everywhere. Oh my gosh. It was pretty ridiculous. But anyways, here is a quick clip with Matt Munoz talking about solar. All right. So let's move on to one of the first topics. Now, I think this is a great way to segue, because last week my guest on the show was Javier Guerrero, real estate agent. I've known him for like 20 years. Love the guy. Such a great dude. And me and him, we were having a conversation off camera, which we should have had it on camera because it would have been a great segue into this. But I asked him, because we were talking, I told him that you were going to be on the show this week. And he was like, wow, Matt's into solar. And I said, yeah. And I said, what is that like for real estate? And he said that back in the day, it was difficult because the way that the programs worked,
right.
I'm sure that there's a 27,000 page thing you got to sign when you do this, just like anything. But he was saying that back then when they tried to sell the home, that when any profit that came from the home, they had to pay off the whole loan of the solar.
Right.
And so there was a lot of times back in the days where real estate agents, if someone was listing their house and it had solar, some of the listing agents would stay away from it because they just knew there was too much red tape, too much things to talk about. Right. So moving forward, is that still true today?
Absolutely not. One thing that we were talking about right before we started was depending also. There's multiple programs out there. Okay. And the one program that you're referring to, and that a lot of people, which makes people say, hell no to solar, is a hero program.
Okay.
A hero program is a program to where it goes based upon your home. It takes off your property taxes, and it goes off the line of your credit. Now, there are programs like that today, but they're a lot different because of that reason.
Yeah.
So if you went to sell your home, either you, the seller, had to pay that system off, or you had to convince the buyer
to buy that
system out. Which made it very difficult, which is why a lot of real estate agents said, no, we don't want to deal with that because there's just too much of a headache. And then you're getting a brokenhearted buyer.
Yeah.
Because,
or feel like they got to buy something else,
Yeah. And when you're talking a $30,000 solar system on top of a $300,000-$400,000 home, that's not a whole lot when you're talking about a 30-year fixed loan. But at the same time, it was just a nightmare. It really was a nightmare. But the way solar has been made now, it's been made affordable, it's been made easy, and it's 100% transferable to the next homeowner with buyout options if they want to.
So there's multiple options now.
Correct. And that's one of the biggest things that we do when somebody reaches out to me. I don't say, okay, great, I'm going to send you this. Let me know if you want to do it. We say no. One of the things that we want to do is we want to sit down with a homeowner and figure out which program best fits their family.
Yeah, that was
So polite, buddy.
that was. That's the thing, is that when we run the clip, we don't know when it's going to end. It doesn't show a buffer, so we might be like in the middle of a conversation. All of a sudden, oh, it's back. But I remember that podcast specifically because, like I said, it was the first time that Edgar came over, and I was so frustrated with those pops, and we had everything all crazy, and we got out here way early, and we pre-gamed a little too much.
Yeah, I came home from work, and I remember you telling me, "Oh no, they're gonna get here at 3 or 4." Like,
yeah. Well,
the
Edgar
podcast is
got
at
here.
7?
Edgar got here at 3. Matt got here at like 5:30, and we haven't seen each other in a long time.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and that night we were drinking Asylum by Left Coast Brewing, which is a it was like a 12% beer. But before that, because we were hanging out, we haven't seen each other in a long
Because
time.
we're hanging out.
So we're drinking beers beforehand, and Mr. Edgar, way too hard before then. But if you guys notice, it sounded really good. It
Amazing.
sounded really good.
Mhm.
But but it's funny too, because right before that, like 2 or 3 days before that, I said I gotta find like a stand for the camera, because the camera that we have right now, unfortunately, it feels like it's a little bit too high today, but it's just a USB webcam that I put. We usually have it hanging on top of the TV, but it's on top of the TV. It's still, when we're looking at the TV and the camera's up there, it just kind of feels, I don't know. It feels there's a little bit of a disconnect, but we had to have it back. So I bought that it's like a long extension arm that was holding it, but because it wasn't very sturdy, so every time we touched the table, it was like it was moving. So yeah. I mean, like I said, every podcast I go back, I watch it.
Every podcast he buys something new.
Every podcast I buy something new. So
Tomorrow I'm gonna buy.
So that was oh, Julie, hey, hope you're doing well. Hope to see you in a few days. I think you're coming back to visit California in a few days.
From where?
What?
From where?
From, I believe, Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. She moved out to Colorado. Yeah. So
Nice.
So so that podcast was we learned a little bit. We learned not to drink too much before the show. We like to drink on the show, but don't drink too much before the show.
Don't drink game too hard.
Yeah, it's about drinking on the show. It's where we get to drink a beer and learn something new, and then we can drink afterwards.
Because you guys were like, oh, some light beers, and then top it off with that 11%.
Yeah. Oh, that got us there.
That was smart.
Yeah. That was smart. So so the next podcast that we did was a fun one. And this is the 5 Foot Viking podcast number 6. It was Let's Talk Touring with your favorite individual in the world, Christopher Knight,
one of my favorite individuals in the world.
Our next door neighbor. And I can already tell that we had so much fun talking. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties with the audio. Once again, where I learned something new, you got to make sure you plug in everything in the correct order, or we had such a good sound and we could hear it. We could hear it great in our ears, but the internet was not picking up our microphones. It was picking up the camera microphone. So and I didn't check that. So unfortunately, luckily our conversation kind of held it together.
You guys carried it.
Yeah. But anyways, here is a clip of the 5 Foot Viking podcast number 6, talking about touring with Christopher Knight.
We're trying to branch out a little bit, and so they hit us up and say, hey, we have a potential show for you at this stadium in Tijuana. And we're like
a stadium?
Yeah.
Or like a bullfighting arena?
Well, stadium was what we heard. So we're like, okay, yeah, we're totally down with doing this. So it being another country, we're like, all right, well, we're not exactly sure what we need to do. Get over there. It's our first time doing any sort of international
But
travel.
before we get into all this, who is making all the decisions for this? Like, do you guys do it? Do you guys get together as a band, make the decisions? But who goes out and books everything? Is Kevin still doing all that?
No, that's actually my wife. So
okay,
yeah,
so she's your manager.
Yeah, my wife Karen does our booking, and what we found early on, and Kevin would even admit this too. And I think it's kind of tough. I know you guys are in the situation a little bit, but when you're in the band, it's more difficult. Not impossible, but when you're in the band, it's more difficult to separate yourself
for sure
as a booker, and maybe you don't necessarily get your full market value in some instances because you're more eager to play the show versus what you could potentially make in some things. And the benefit that we had with my wife doing it is she had been playing. She's an established musician herself. Was a guitar player in Thunderstruck for a while.
Bass player
in Motley's Crew.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of all the bands here. She'll help me out here. But right now she's doing the Great Pumpkin and Seattle's Best. So really rocking the grunge thing right now. She does an awesome job in the Smashing Pumpkins thing. But not to get off on one of our tangents here. She is really good at having a lot of connections. I think that's what she does best. I mean, she connects with people. She's quite the talker, and really good at making connections, and really having that forceful push, if you will, to kind of get us in some of these locations. So
it's always good to have that person that you can hand it off to. I totally understand when we're in a band and when we're people are approaching us, and I mean I love the hey man, I want you to play in my backyard because. Trust me, I got all the booze that you can have. Right, there's going to be food and booze and
sandwiches over the cooler over there.
And don't get me wrong, I'm very appreciative of that.
Totally.
But at the same time, you being able to separate yourself, that's gold right there. To be able to separate yourselves and be the entertainer, be the artist, be the performer who comes in and does that. But then if someone wants to talk business, let's pass the buck.
So, and I mean, let's be real. While we're having fun up there and doing the show, that's a great time. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes before you're hitting that first note. It's a lot more work. And nowadays, with all the technology out there, it's been scaled down a little bit from what it once was. But there's still a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. Especially traveling.
Oh, I just realized. I think I put that was the 5 Foot Viking podcast 5. Well, I guess I learned from that. But anyways, that sure was a lot of fun.
And I'm sure nobody noticed anyway.
Until I just said it right now.
Well, exactly. Well, it's like this citra that I have right here. If I wouldn't say anything, they wouldn't say anything.
No,
but here I am.
Well,
introducing my co-host over here.
The co-host?
Co-host to my co-host.
So
I'm 40 years old. Why?
You're 21.
Times 2.
No. 21, you're allowed to drink. Skull. But that podcast, I think that if the microphones would have worked perfectly, it would have taken the production level up so much higher because Chris is just so much fun to chat with. I love that we're neighbors. Even though that we're neighbors, we hardly ever see them, like ever.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, occasionally, like as I'm driving out to go to work, I see him driving in. I'm like, oh, hey, we'll stop and high five, and that's about it. But
it's really cool. Like whenever we do get the time to hang out, it's awesome for me to watch you guys talking because you guys feed off of each other back and forth, and it's like if you guys had a comedy show, wow, like you wouldn't have to rehearse.
Well, it's in the works.
You guys are just so.
I'm just kidding.
No. You guys are just so like in tune.
The chemistry.
Yeah.
Well, also being musicians and just being extremely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. See how I agree to everything you say?
And humble. I'm extremely ridiculously humble.
No.
I'm just kidding. No, but that was a fun one when he was telling us all the stories about how he would Damage Inc. would tour in Mexico and go to these different arenas and
the after show stories are much better.
Those are much better. So I like this. We're going to go back to a few comments real quick. Stephanie, you should see my husband's setup. He teaches via Zoom.
Yeah.
And it doubles as a photography studio.
Mhm.
After every class or every shoot, he'd get something new. Thank goodness for Amazon Prime. Yes, very true.
Amazon, the other day I was walking back to work and there was an Amazon guy coming in and he moved to the side. I'm like, no, you go first. Trust me.
Mhm.
You're royalty around here. And he started laughing. But it's true. I'm like, you're probably going to drop something off at 203. He goes, yep.
That's awesome.
I'm friends with a UPS guy as
absolutely.
well. Yeah.
Julie, so you're up in Lake Shasta and you're a long haul trucker. Wow.
We were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, we were actually we were talking about
tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna become
Marlene's gonna get her Class A license and we're gonna buy a truck.
And we're gonna travel.
I don't know.
No, probably not.
Yes, that was definitely a good recovery. Thank you, Edgar. And just to let you guys know, it also in the description above or below, depending on what you're watching, Mr. Edgar Hernandez is going to be podcasting tonight, if I'm not mistaken, around 10 o'clock. And there's a link in there to go to his Facebook page as well. So speaking of that, let's go to the next podcast, which is the 5 Foot Viking podcast number 7, where I had a lot of people that reaching out to me, super excited about this one.
I was one of them.
Yes. Reoccurring guest. So with Kathy Groover, and this one was talking about meditation, and so many people wanted to know about this. Sorry to interrupt, but where was the one where she was, I think it was the first podcast with her, where she said, you breathe in. Oh, that was this one. Okay. But I don't think that's the clip, but that's this podcast. Okay, I was just going to say, because that was another one that actually has helped me. So thank you, Kathy, because I do apply it now in my life, because there's times that, like you said, your mind wanders and mine travels very far every single minute. What do we make fun of? We're like, your mind's like we're talking and... Because Wit makes a very short story. No, I don't. I just love detail. If you know, you know. And he's very animated and but anyway, long story short, here we go. There's many times that he keeps talking. I'm like, you're still talking? My brain already went like, close the door on you. Her brain like ran into the other room, closed the door, got in the bed, put the covers over, and went to sleep. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So, but that's why this next podcast really helped you out. Oh, I am at peace. Mm-hmm. And this is a clip from the 5 Foot Viking podcast number 7. And that was Let's Talk Meditation with Kathy Groover.
One of the benefits of meditation is it keeps us present in the state where we can make changes. We can, craft our future. We can program what we want to achieve. Being present in that meditation state changes so many things about our lives. And if someone would have told me that I'd be more productive, more present, a better leader, a better communicator, better in relationship, less stressed, more physically fit, more physically healthy, good Lord, I would have figured out how to meditate at 20. Nobody told me any of those things. It's amazing. It's an amazing tool. Well, I'm 42. I'm looking forward to learning and practicing this week. So, I do want to touch on what Boris put in a pretty interesting comment which now, if anybody knows me, I'm not a very good reader, but I'm going to do this anyways. I used to be such a spiritual person right before I came to this country. 20 plus years later, not too much. I can't ever find the time. I'm assuming that's what he's saying. There's not enough time in the day to keep up with the responsibilities. No way to take the time to relax or allow myself to let go for a bit and reset. I truly need help with this. So with that being said, I think he's speaking to I think he's probably speaking for the majority of people that are watching this, me included. There's a lot of times I feel like I've got so much going on. It's difficult to even find the time to reset, to set that time to meditate.
so personal question on behalf of Boris for this. Would you recommend like a certain, maybe putting it into your schedule, or, a certain amount of time? Does it need to be a long amount of time? Can you do this,
That's such an awesome question, because when I do these talks, this is one of my main topics for workshops and conferences and keynotes. And inevitably someone raises their hand and says, I don't have time.
Yes.
Here's the reality of this. We all get 24 hours.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, we choose how we spend our time.
True.
I love scheduling it in. And when I work with coaching clients, I say, when do you have 5 minutes that you can schedule in a break? Mm-hmm. So here's the other thing. If you seriously don't have time, I don't have kids, I don't work for somebody else, I can, to a certain extent, adjust my schedule as needed. But there are days it's freaking crazy, right?
Absolutely.
Do you brush your teeth?
Sometimes.
Cool. Do you go to the bathroom? Do you take a shower? Do you prepare your meals? Do you do the dishes? You can turn any of those things into an opportunity for meditation and mindfulness. Mm-hmm. And the mindfulness practice is sort of an offshoot of meditation. Mindfulness is simply going about an activity with presence, with focus, bringing all of your senses in. And if other thoughts intrude, which they will, dismissing them without judgment. So if you're going to do the dishes mindfully, mm-hmm. what does the water feel like on your hands? What's the temperature? Can you feel the sliminess of the soap? Oh, there's a little piece of food on a dish you missed. You take a deep breath. What is that orange, that lemon coming up off the sink? And you open your eyes and you see the bubbles forming, and you hear the water pouring in and the crackling of the bubbles and the dishes clinking. And inevitably, every time I put the bottle of soap down and this little bubble goes bloop off the top of the soap bottle, and it floats up and it spins. There's this little rainbow inside, and it always heads towards the light. And then suddenly it goes boop with this little spray of water. And if you do that for 5 minutes while you're doing the dishes, you suddenly have a sink of clean dishes and you've been present.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's wow. That's probably a close tie to my favorite podcast, because mm-hmm. she dropped so much knowledge mm-hmm. on that one. She did this exercise. If you guys are watching this and you really, if anything triggers as far as learning how to meditate or learning just some quick tips, go back and watch the full episode. She had a really great one that was about breathing in and breathing out, about I am at peace. And that was powerful. That was really cool. That was a lot of fun. So
I wish I've known that mantra many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. I had a job that was pretty stressful. I wasn't at it for too long, but I remember, like, before I will go in, I will kind of be like, all right, let's see if I know this meditation thing, and just kind of envision myself just having a good time, having a good day, being kind to everybody, and everybody's going to be kind to me, and kind of like just, but at the same time, my brain will come in and be like, oh, you need to pay this bill. Oh, you need to do this. Oh, this. Oh, you forgot to do this. So, like she was saying, paying attention to what your mind is saying also. It's like, oh, okay, let's see what you have to say.
To where your thoughts are taking you.
Yeah, but my thoughts take me everywhere.
Yeah, you go from A to F and then back to B. And
especially in the middle of the night when I have to wake up early for work. Mm-hmm. It's very annoying, but, I'm trying to.
This is great. It's so true. How amazing is she? Kathy makes me want to meditate at the sink.
Hold
on. There's one more. What? That's why I'm the dish bitch at my house.
Oh, you're the cha-cha of the house. Well, that's one thing that I was telling Whit, like when she spoke about, oh, there's a bubble. Where's the bubble going? Mm-hmm. That's pretty much my brain while I'm doing dishes at the same time. Oh, hey. Then I break a glass and the husband wants to divorce me because pretty much all the dishes are gone.
Absolutely never.
And how many dishes? His crystal whiskey glass.
Well,
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I have
now
3 left.
Now you have 3.
Right? You got 3 left, woman.
That's probably going to be gone before the end of the year.
I love how when I do meditate, just 10 minutes spent grounding mm-hmm. and being mindful.
Grounding.
Sets me up in a good way for the rest of the day.
Yes.
I'm so much more productive. That was a great episode. And yes, that was definitely a great episode. Mm-hmm. And I think at that time, I was getting, I was learning how to navigate both of them. How to have guests that were in front of me, having guests that were virtual, learning the platform, learning the tech. I was feeling more confident with it. We were already at, what was that, podcast number 7, and then the next podcast number 8. We were gonna talk about iPhone versus Android.
This was a good save.
Yeah, I think so too. We changed it up at the last minute because unfortunately Flacco, being the manager of
Flaky? I mean Flacco? Yeah. Yeah, Flaky. Flacco flaked.
As a manager of a store, you have responsibilities. And when people call out and stuff and you have to stay there, you got to stay there. It is what it is.
This is why I'm not a manager.
And when he reached out to me and was like, bro, and this was about 3:00 in the afternoon, or maybe a little bit earlier. Flacco reached out. I had just gotten off the phone with Edgar, and Edgar was like, I'm on my way. I'm bringing some old phones so we can take a look at them, like an old Razor phone, an old flip phone, and we can talk about phones.
You hoarder. Let him go, Elsa.
Yeah, let it go. But when as soon as I got off the phone with Edgar, Flacco had texted me, and he was like, bro, this is the situation. I am so sorry, but I can't make it. And I wasn't prepared for that. That was crazy.
You learned something,
right?
Oh
yeah. I was kind of like, I was freaking out. I'm like, what should I do? I've already promoted this stuff, blah, blah, blah.
The show must go on.
Yeah, the show must go on. So we just picked a topic real quick. We said, let's talk about pivoting moments in 2020. And Edgar was there with me. So this is a clip from the 5 Foot Viking number 8, pivotal moments in 2020 with Edgar Hernandez. I was watching your podcast and I was watching what you're doing, and I absolutely love having an engaged conversation.
Yeah.
And one thing that Marlene told me a long, long time ago, she's like, you just, when you're interested in something, you ask questions and you want to learn. You genuinely just want to learn. And that ultimately was the kind of the foundation of this podcast, is just to have over a 20-year career in music. I've met professionals in multiple fields, and it's just kind of cool to sit down with a professional in their field and hey, so you're a doctor. Like, what do you, how did you get into this position and what do you do? So it's really interesting to have that conversation. So when I was watching your podcast, I'm like, man,
which is interesting to me. I'm just like, what was watching my podcast?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You were talking about aliens and you were talking about like, you talked about some cool shit. Like it was weird.
That's what intrigued me too.
But it was fun because you would talk about stuff that you're like, okay, we're going to go down the rabbit hole. For 8 hours.
I mean, all fancy stuff that just seems outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, but sometimes it's not necessarily true, but
it was
sometimes it's true. I mean, but at the same time,
value.
Then I get you on the podcast. I'm just like, oh, let's talk about these propositions that are important.
So a precursor to that was as I'm doing these live streams and learning about this, then I'm watching your podcast. I'm like, man, I started really getting interested in it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think this is something that I can do. And with the fact that we had a friendship that was based around music, and now we had a second, a parallel to it where, okay, now we can connect more on podcasting and understanding this, because I like you said, I like asking questions, and I kept grilling you. I was texting you every day, like, bro, but how do you do this? But how do you do this? Why is there a popping noise? Why is this?
Yeah.
What is the bit rate? How is there's, and ladies and gentlemen at home, there is so much that goes into this besides just turning it on and pressing go live. There's a lot of technicality that goes behind it.
If you don't have the curiosity for it, at least, then it's not for you. Well, it's not for everybody.
The fun part too was that during the lockdowns, during the shutdowns, while I was, because this learning curve for me started probably about like May or June, because I think I did my very first podcast with my dad, Father's Day, with my dad and my brother, and I was testing the waters, figuring it out. It was a rough one. It was a rough one. It was a rough podcast, but it was fun because I learned a lot. And then moving forward, I was like really trying to prepare for this podcast.
Yeah.
And as I was learning, that whole learning curve, there were nights when I would text you at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, like, bro, what are you doing tonight? And he's like, nothing. I'm putting the kid to bed at 9, and that's about it. And I was like, cool. So are we going to FaceTime drink at 10?
Yeah.
And we would FaceTime drink, and we would talk bullshit, and we would ask questions, and
I was like this.
Oh, there was one time you fell asleep while we were talking, and I was like, this son of a bitch fell asleep while we were FaceTiming each other.
I'm like, wait, how do you do this, man? You're like, dude, my clock is different than yours.
Yeah, you normally go to sleep at like 11 midnight.
No, but even when I would go out and see you guys play, I can see you guys are wide awake by even 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like,
I don't naturally get tired until 3 a.m. because my clock is 20 years worth of getting home at 3 4 in the morning.
Totally, man.
So there was one time in particular that you were hammered. I was pretty drunk too. And you were like, bro, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I was like, all right, cool. So I'm sitting there in front of the TV, and I'm watching, and it's all a live stream, like between just me and him. And he goes to the bathroom, and I'm like, I'm waiting for him to come back so we can talk. And he comes back, and I see him walking back, and he just stands in front. I was like, so are you gonna sit down? And he just ends the call. He just ends the call, turned it off. And I was like, son of a bitch just hung up on me. I think you forgot that you were even FaceTiming me.
I think I did, man.
That was hilarious.
Genuinely, man. I think I did.
That was pretty good.
I did.
That was actually that was
I remember that time. The next day you were like, this son of a gun. We were drinking together, and all of a sudden he just went.
Yeah, he literally just walked up and
so I guess we're done.
He forgot. I'm like, he just hung up on me. I thought we were still drinking. I thought we were still talking, but that was such a great save. First of all, I was blessed that Edgar was coming over, and it really, that was hilarious. That was a great.
That was
great,
many LOLs.
That was pretty awesome. But that was really funny and to be honest, I was just very blessed that he was coming over that day, because I was kind of a wreck when I found out, and I was, I didn't have anything going on. So I didn't know what to do. And when he got here, he was like, bro, we'll just talk. Let's come up with something. Let's talk about something. And we talked about, how this whole 5 Foot Viking kind of happened and how it came about. And it came about by me and him late night drinking, FaceTime, while we started talking about how are we going to make this happen? I have no idea how that happened. I know exactly how that happened, dude. You went big.
This is how it happened,
you went big, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was past your bedtime, and you went to the bathroom, and you came back, and you just completely forgot you were even talking to me, and you were like, "And I'm going to bed."
He just closed the laptop, or whatever.
No, you have. See, that's the thing. He didn't even just go to bed or close the laptop. He literally had to end the call. So
this is how you end.
This is how you end it. So, I thought that was hilarious. I'm like, really, bro? This dude, I was left in one of those moments. I was by myself, but I kept looking for someone else. Did anybody else see this?
Lo dejaste como novia de rancho.
I don't
Vestido
know.
y alborotado.
What?
He knows what that means.
Okay, well, I think he does. I don't. Can you guys look up? Let's see. Nelson. What's up, brother?
Nelson. It's Wilson, huh?
Can you guys look up the Blossom theme song and the Blossom dance and stream right now? On the stream right now. I can't. I probably could. I don't know how to do that though. I'd have to learn.
He hasn't gone to that class yet.
Yeah, I haven't graduated from that one. I haven't graduated from that one yet.
That class yet. That's podcast
Mark,
104.
How are you, sir? Good to see you.
Hi, Mark.
Been a minute?
Oh, we would have been on the cruise right now.
We would have been on the cruise. Yeah, that would have been great. My lovely sister Shivani, hashtag 3 bottles of wine. So Edgar, just so you know, I've had that same phone call with you with my sister, and she had 3 bottles of wine. and she hung up on me. I don't know what it is. It's a theme of people hanging up on me.
I just fall asleep on you.
No, you hang up on me mostly because you're done. You're like, okay, he's been talking for way too long.
You're still talking?
It's so true. It's so true.
I'm
yes.
laughing at what?
Te felicito. I think that means congratulations.
No.
Here we go. Oh. Ja.
Ja.
I think that means laughing out loud.
No, I meant this. I'm cough laughing.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think I put that one up. Cough laughing. Yes, he is. And he does that.
Snorting at the same time, like like that.
So you know what? That podcast was definitely a save.
Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna get to the conversation about iPhone versus Android. We will get to that, but we
can talk about it.
That podcast,
iPhone. That's it.
That's
End
it.
of podcast.
End of podcast, and we're done in 5 seconds.
And we're done.
But it was really cool to think on our feet, make something happen out of nowhere, and it was a great podcast.
Yeah.
All right. So then moving on to the final, the very final 5 Foot Viking podcast number 9. This would be Let's Talk Nightclubs and Restaurants. And this one, first of all, this was kind of like a combination of like all the things that I've learned. Right. And it's kind of cool that it happened this way, because I went through all this whole learning curve of 8 episodes, learning from this lesson, learning from that lesson, learning from this lesson, and cultivating all those lessons into one. Literally, I went out and I bought some more. I bought some more gear. I had some extension cords on some cables, and I had some different microphones. I had all this different lighting. I bought a couple different lights. And I reached out to my good friend, Oscar Macias, who is the
you're lucky that I never say anything about what you buy.
You want to talk about shoes?
Listen.
Is that what you want to talk about right now? You want to talk about shoes?
This is not a podcast for that.
Oh, okay. I get it.
My shoes
Bring it on.
are my vice.
Bring it on.
Okay.
So, do your shoes put on a podcast?
And my shoes don't cost $1,000 to $2,000 like your base.
Okay, yeah, but I use my bases too.
Listen, I use my shoes too.
Listen,
I walk around from the living room to the bathroom.
Okay, listen. Everybody at home, don't mind us. We're just going to have a conversation right now about our finances. Anyways, this podcast that we did was kind of like a combination of all the lessons learned, and it was fun because we got to we actually did it on location. We went to cities, and cities unfortunately right now is closed on a lot of days, but fortunately for us it was closed on Tuesday, and Oscar opened it up to us. So we get in there, and it was me and Edgar.
So graciously opened it up.
Absolutely. And so he came in, and we sat in, and we set everything up. We got everything going. We got some great lights, and we got great sound. And we got all this good stuff.
And by the way, I do remember those times that we will, I was working at Firehouse Grill in Upton Whittier, and listen, the cooks were at Firehouse Grill. We didn't leave it quite alone, okay? We were just like, do you need a beer? Do you need anything? Everybody okay? Cool, we'll be right back.
Yeah, and then we all went to Ibiza.
And Oscar was like, he will see us crossing the street, and he was like,
start pouring.
So by the time we got there, it was ready to go. We took the shot, we paid him, and got the hell out of there. Like, it wasn't more than a minute that we were there. He was already like, here, you guys. Oh yeah, he was.
So this is this is a clip, and this was just such a fun podcast to do. So here is a clip from the 5 Foot Viking podcast number 9, and this is with Oscar Macias, and we're talking about owning a nightclub or restaurant. Now, we all know that being an owner, there's so many more things that you know, or that you had to learn, or that you had to obstacles that you had to get over. I know for me, working in so many different restaurants, I've always thought, I could do this. I know I could do this. I can see all this stuff. You're like, oh, I got this. I should open my own damn bar. And but there's so many things that you see from behind the scenes that we don't see. So with that being said, over the past 10 years that you have had cities open and running, what is one of the, quote unquote, like lessons learned, meaning like something that maybe an obstacle that hit you that you weren't prepared for. And you were like, okay, well, all right, now I learned this one and now I got to move forward. I know what to watch out for, because there's so many things that you get hit with every single day. Is that something that happened throughout the course or something right before or something during?
The actual operations of the business itself, I'd been doing it for years. So, obviously you still learn. There's always things that come up that you learn. My biggest learning curve would be the prior to opening.
Okay.
That was definitely something that was very intense. Just the permit process per se. Just starting with that, I just thought, okay, I want to open up a bar. Here I go. Like, what do you need from me?
Pay my rent, and then the doors are open.
And then what a lot of people think, okay, and then I sell a beer for $5.
Yeah.
And it cost me $1, so I profit $4 in my pocket. No, it doesn't work that way. But anyway,
what?
No, it doesn't,
dude. Okay, I don't know if I want to do this podcast. I don't. You're pulling the curtain way too back, bro. I don't want to know what's going on behind there.
Yeah, man. So, but prior to opening, I just I was like that kid with the dream, with the pipe dream. I want to open up a bar, and so I talked to a few people. Like, what do I do? Okay, so you start off with this. Go find yourself an architect. We were in the building at the time, so I found myself an architect. Okay. What do you want to do? Okay, I'm giving him my ideas. I want to do this. Oh no, you can't do this. You can do that. So we go back and forth for about a month and a half, 2 months. Finally, he's like, okay, go present it to the county. And anyway,
oh my gosh,
that's a fraction of what we. Really? Oh my God, that's just a fraction of it.
But anyway. How do you? So my question is, how do you know where to take it? Like he says, okay, here's the plans. Now, okay, now what? Like, did you Google how to open a bar for?
Dude, I was like a three stooge at that point, just trying to figure out where to go and just and back then like Google wasn't in the back of my mind. Okay, I can Google this. I was just asking people, what do I do now? What do I do now? So it was just it was an ordeal, man. Just okay, architect, go to planning. Now you're going to go through a hearing. Now you do your song and dance. Tell the county what you want to do. Once that actually, that's another story. It's too long. I won't get into that one right now. But
going podcast to county, number 2.
Yeah, it's a good story, but it's just way too long. But then after that, I'm like, okay, now I'm free and clear. I got approved, so now I can open my bar. No, now you got to go back to building and safety. Now you have to hire a structural engineer. You have to hire an electrical engineer, a plumbing engineer, a mechanical engineer, all these people to put everything together. So,
but the building's already here.
Yeah, everything the building was literally 4 walls, dude. 4 walls and a ceiling. That's all that was here. You guys can't see this, but there's a mezzanine behind you. There's a bridge.
Oh, you built all this?
This everything in here. The soffits. There's 4 walls and a roof. So let's just to give you an idea. So just dealing with all these different engineers, and me being the middleman, like I'm dealing with the architect, and this guy saying no, going back and forth between building and safety and all these engineers. And let me tell you, that was a huge, huge ordeal. So your question was, what was lesson learned?
Yeah.
Lesson learned, there's such a thing as a one-stop shop that I didn't know.
Really? Yeah. That was we've talked plenty of times. Marlene,
especially after a few skulls over here.
A few skulls.
A million skulls later, let's open up a bar.
I remember when we first started dating.
I said that many times.
Yeah, you were like, let's open a bar. I can do this.
But listen, I mean, and I remember this, and probably Oscar doesn't remember this, but there were times that when we would go to on our Firehouse Girl breaks, and I remember I was talking to Oscar, and it was Kimmy, Oscar, and I, and we were talking, and he was, just making the drinks and whatever. and he mentioned that he wanted to open up a bar. I was like, dude, that's awesome. At some point I would love to do that too. Why? Because I know the ins and outs of the restaurant business. I've done it for so long that I understand, but at the same time I know that it's so difficult, especially if you don't have the capital. I had a good friend of mine move from Michigan to LA, and he tried to get somebody to go in with him, and he would have been a great bar owner, restaurant owner, whatever. Like, he would have been so great because he had so much knowledge, but he didn't have the capital. So he went back home, and actually he's thriving. Dan. And I remember, like, we would talk and he would tell me so many like things that you need to do, and seeing this podcast and just hearing Oscar saying like, yeah, instead of doing all of this, you have a one-stop shop. And that's very cool that when people actually are interested in it and they come to him and they're like, hey, how was your experience? You actually are honest, and instead of be like, yeah, another person that wants to open a bar, you were like, well, this is what you have to do, and this is what I learned. And I think that's very awesome. Like, if you why not teach somebody else? That's the beauty of your journey on this earth. Like, if you have the knowledge to give,
just like I think it was Stephanie who said earlier, that we all, we help each other.
Yeah, because it's knowledge that you have. Like, trust me, I'm training somebody at work, and it's funny because it's like, my manager was like, wow, you know so much. And he's like, no, Marlene taught me that. And he's like, train other people the way I want to be trained. I would have liked somebody to train me. Like, give me the knowledge. Like, I learned, but give me the knowledge. So I know ahead of time, like, oh, that's what she said.
Well, before we move, we have to go to Jim's.
That's your favorite, is it?
It's
Jim?
Yes, Jim Wooten. That's my angle. Every time Brendan gets a new pair of shoes, I get a new.
I still buy shoes.
And that's why I know, bro, you have like 100 and something pages, bro.
Brenda, how many shoes do you have?
I think she might be lying. I think she has a couple thousand pairs of shoes. So maybe for every 100 shoes she gets, you get 2 bases.
If we were to match $1 for $1, oof, be careful. Just didn't have all the knowledge in the world. But I don't.
It's all shoes. Like this, we need to make this one. This one needs to.
She meant to say this.
Oh, let me say this. There we go.
Yes.
Hashtag
that's what I'm
shoes
talking
from
about.
Marlene.
See? Thank you, girl. Thank you for having my back. That's right.
Good times. Well, that
it's not just me. And I mean, maybe I'm lying, but I think it's every girl. Hey, shoes. Whether you gain weight or you lose weight, shoes will be there forever, and they will fit you forever and ever and ever.
It's like poetry. Did you get that from Sex and the City?
No, I got that from Dr. Seuss.
Well, I think so. That was the last podcast that we did, and that was kind of like a combination of like all the lessons learned, everything all put together. And the more that I watch that or see clips of that, I kind of see the direction of where the 5 Foot Viking can go, the possibilities. I mean, when you have such a beautiful, not to say that our dining room isn't beautiful, which it is.
But the story about this, like, I love this thing. It's downtown LA, and we bought it at IKEA, and we bought it when we moved to downtown LA. Remember?
Yeah.
And you wanted to get rid of it after we left downtown LA, and no, why? So we didn't get rid of it, and see, now it's the background.
Well, it okay.
And we have Witt's skateboard over here, where he goes and grabs us beers across the street from us when we can be driving. But he goes. Sorry,
I have really no idea where you're going with this, but
I don't know. We're just showing that you're talking about the aesthetic.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So here we go.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that after seeing that last podcast with Oscar, and looking at how the decor, the look, I really got to work on lights. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how lighting works. And to be honest, if there's anybody out there who understands lighting and can if you want to help me out a little bit, I'd really appreciate
Cities
it.
was the best.
Cities, the look there was just gorgeous.
The look, oh, absolutely. I love the brick look, for the record. Like, that was just, as soon as you guys started, I was like, oh, that looks awesome. But also the sound. Overall, that was a great podcast. But then again, like you said, you're learning, right? So you're slowly...
And also, I think the main thing is the content. When we have a great conversation, when we're talking about something fun, when we're talking about something that we can all learn about, maybe owning a business or owning a restaurant isn't super exciting for you. But when you know more about the ins and outs of what really happens, it's, maybe that's not your goal in life, but understanding it, I don't know. Me personally, I like it. I think it's kind of cool.
I just think it's really cool to see somebody else's point of view that has the experience, the knowledge, the journey behind it. Like Chris's, he knows about the touring and all of that. And it's just awesome to share it with us folks that... us little peasants that don't get to travel and tour and be rock stars for, like, I love your job. Like, it's so cool. Like, when he was talking about it, it's really cool. Javi, learning about real estate. I think that should have been something that I think we should have learned about that in high school, along with taxes, how to do your taxes. But here we are. With Matthew, it was really interesting, like when somebody said, well, we don't have solar over here. Where was it?
It was somewhere in, I think in Arizona.
Yeah. And then he said, well, it doesn't make sense to have solar power where you're not going to get enough sun. Like, it's just, like you wouldn't have it in Alaska because what's the point? And it's something that you're like, oh, yeah. It doesn't make sense until somebody tells you, like somebody that knows. So I think that has been one of the things that I have taken out of every podcast, because I have watched, obviously, religiously every single podcast. So I'm always like, oh, yeah, that makes sense, So,
all right, guys. Well, this has been a fun podcast. We actually went way over. Normally, we keep our podcast close to an hour, and but we were going through a lot of them, and we had some fun and chatting and going over everything. So,
thank you for commenting.
Yes, appreciate all the interaction. Everybody who stuck with us all the way here, and thank you to La Quinta Brewing Company.
This was so last minute, by the way. It was so cool. Yeah. We were passing, we were going to go to a vintage shop, and there was the Quinta Brewing, and it's like, hey, there we go. And this is really good beer, by the way. Yeah. If you are ever in Palm Desert, it's called La Quinta Brewing.
Una más, por favor.
Una más, por favor. There we
go. Yep. Yeah. So before we go, I just wanted to let you guys know that next week, at where is it? There it is. Next week on Tuesday, March 16th at 7 p.m. I'm going to be having another podcast, and my guest is going to be Martin McLaughlin. We met on the 80s cruise, and we've got a lot to talk about. It's not just fitness. But as you can tell from the picture, he is definitely in shape. He owns a gym, and he's very big on staying healthy and staying active. But he's got an interesting story, very interesting story, and we connected a lot on the 80s cruise, the last maybe 5 or 6 years, I think. So we're going to be doing this. He is in, if I'm not mistaken, Pennsylvania, so obviously. I don't have the budget just yet to fly him out, so we're going to be doing it virtually. But looking forward to next week's podcast. And before we bounce, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has commented, liked, shared, done all that stuff. I really appreciate it. Mark, yes, Mark. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one next week, and looking forward to that, and looking forward to the next 9 podcasts, and then maybe we'll do another recap of those 9 podcasts and see where we're at with the 5-foot Viking. And
then I have 20 pairs coming my way.
Dad. Oh, what is that? My dad, look at you. 2 pairs of shoes for each podcast.
20 pairs of shoes coming up.
Wow. Okay. Well, Amazon, you're on it. You're going to be on it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate your support. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube page and the Facebook page. Really appreciate your support. Looking at doing a raffle giveaway soon of some different merch, maybe a t-shirt, maybe some bottle openers, some koozies, some good stuff. So please make sure that you are subscribed to the YouTube page and then you have notifications turned on. And with that being said, Skull to everyone at home. Another Tuesday, Skull. And I think this is how you end it.